of a lot of research that gets submitted for publication at ASCE conferences is AAM. So,
yeah,
that'd be great. And
yeah,
it looks like we just got Halil on. Halil, can you hear us okay? You might still be getting things set up.
I wonder how many people showed up because of the weather. I mean, it was just downright cool.
You know, when I saw your email, yeah, I was wondering the same thing. I'm sure you're not alone in the struggles of getting into DC. I hear it's snowing there at a pretty good clip this morning, so or this afternoon, I guess.
Oh yeah. So we'll see if we even make it out. I even make it out tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully it all goes off without a hitch.
Oh yeah.
Like we got video of Halil there, so that's great.
Yeah. So, can you hear us, Blaine?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. We appreciate it. So, and maybe we can just wait another moment, to allow everyone join. I see many other colleagues coming up online. So wonderful. I'm so glad that we could actually have this in a hybrid format, which greatly help us to, have as many colleagues as possible for our quarterly meeting. So, and Blaine, I will need your help to share the slides, please. I greatly appreciate it. You see the share button there, right? So you can bring it up.
And sure, yeah. I can go ahead and display those.
Yeah, thank you, Blaine.
Bear with me a minute here.
Halil, hi, I'm Kenji. But
hi, Kenji.
How's in-person attendance at TRB? Is it pretty low?
I mean, well, it's not bad because many colleagues arrived on Saturday and, they say earlier on Sunday, but obviously there are a lot of rearrangements going on and filling for other colleagues and all that because of the weather. And I'm so sorry that your flight got, canceled. I had another colleague flying from LA. Her flight got delayed 4 hours yesterday, but she could make it late, so.
Oh, wow.
It's definitely being impacted. So, and so Blaine, thank you so much. Given that we have limited time, I think in the interest of time, so we better get going. And again, if you can please mute yourself unless you're speaking, we greatly appreciate it. So my name is Halil Ceylan, and I serve as the chair of the ASCE T&DI Transportation and Development Institute Uncrewed Aerial Systems Committee. We have some colleagues here in the room, and our council chair is here, and under Emerging Technologies Council. And why don't we just go around and do a quick round of the introductions? I think that will be great. And why don't we just start with our council chair here, and then we'll go to the online audience. Please go ahead.
Okay, I apologize. I have another login, so I have to take one on your mic from your laptop.
Okay, actually they can hear because
I think it's
that's great.
They can see you right now, so it's there. Everybody hear me?
I try to let me.
Yes, I think it's picking up well.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we can hear you great.
Okay, great. My name is Heng Wei, professor of transportation engineering at the University of Cincinnati. I'm currently serving as the chair for the ASCE T&DI Emerging Technologies Council. But actually, this council, under this council, there are 5 technical committees, including this one. Holly has done excellent job in organizing and implementing this committee. So I come here by taking advantage of attending the TRB. So I'm here just to show you my support to this committee.
Thank you. We greatly appreciate it. It's an honor to have you here. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And Colin Brooks from the Michigan Tech Research Institute in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and occasionally join in these UAS committee meetings.
And so we can continue with, I'll just look into the attendance list here. Let's continue with Blaine.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, Blaine Ruck. I serve as vice chair of the UAS committee. I've been serving for a few years now and happy to participate in this. Yeah, and we'll move on. Do we have Ed? Is Ed online?
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was hoping to be sitting there next to Bill, but I had a last minute cancellation myself. So just happy that we were able to do this hybrid because as Halil mentioned, this is, it does help when things happen and we need our colleagues to be able to join from somewhere else. So been on the committee a few years now, and just real happy to see the way it's been growing. So looking forward to this presentation today.
Sadie, wonderful. So Blaine, you will help me to advance the slides. So what I suggest is that Blaine or Ed, maybe you can type in there. For rest of the online audience, given the interest of the time, we only have, there's another 55 minutes to go. If you can please write down your name, affiliation, and email address as shown in here, we greatly appreciate it. And so that, we will have sort of like that will be our attendance. And if you do not mind, we will actually add your email address to the committee as you're participating in this meeting. We had a similar arrangement last year, and I'm super happy that we can actually have a good number of colleagues participating. As you can see, even if you make plans, given the inclement weather and everything, you may not, be here physically. So if you can please follow this example, write down your name, affiliation, and email address. We will add your contact information to the, the committee, the email list, and you will be receiving, the invitations for our future meetings. And again, limits, the quarterly. We have 2 hybrid meetings. One takes place during the TRB annual meeting, another takes place during the ASCE T&DI ICTD International Conference on Transportation and Development, and that will take place in June in Glendale, Arizona this year. So we will have some information on it. So next slide, please. And so this is related to our committee leadership, and we'll go through some quick introductions here. So, and again, my name is Halil Ceylan. It's my 23rd year at Iowa State University, and I have huge interest. We work on several aspects of transportation infrastructure systems, but I have huge interest on transportation infrastructure health monitoring. And as you know, we have over 4.2 million miles of roads in the United States only. Someone has to keep an eye on them. So that's where my interest comes on the utilization of uncrewed aircraft systems for infrastructure inspection. I have some of my outstanding collaborators here in the room, and you can see the rest of the information there. And we've been involved with federal agencies, FAA-sponsored, and other state highway agency-sponsored research. And right now we are leading 3 studies, on a related topic. So next one, please.
Yeah, and I introduced myself already, but yeah, Blaine Ruck. I work for Deschutes County Road Department, which is a road department in Central Oregon. I'm a UAS user. I use UAS in my daily work for managing our capital projects, doing traffic investigations, various other tasks. So right now I've been using drones for about 6-7 years professionally in this space. So yeah, happy to be a part of this committee and always happy to be a part of these meetings. So I'll then pass it over to Ed to finish his introduction.
Yeah, again, in the interest of time, I'll just say that I've been here with the committee almost as long as Halil and Blaine. And I've got quite a bit of experience as a county engineer here in Iowa, flyover country. And again, like my other colleagues, we have quite a bit of UAS work that we do here in our daily work as a county road department. So that's one of the things we're here to do, is to share our ideas and solutions to different problems that we have that are often maybe not apparent to everybody. So getting together like this is a good opportunity to get some new ideas and figure out how we are going to solve these problems that we all kind of have that are common, or maybe we find a new way to approach something that we might not have thought before. So looking forward to today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ed.
And looks like Wei isn't on the call right now, but Wei Lin is our committee outreach coordinator. She assists us with organizing meetings such as these. And unfortunately, she was unable to join us today, but very important member of our committee as well. And here's our contact information. So if for any reason you want to reach out to us, if you're interested in learning more about the committee or interested in possibly presenting some of your work in the UAS space, please don't hesitate to reach out. Here's all our contact info shown above. So.
Thank you, Blaine, and we can continue with this. And you know, what you're seeing here is that U.S. Committee mission statement. And again, this is you know, still a relatively, say, the new committee, but we've been very actively meeting and having these, you know, let's say the regular quarterly meetings and attending again hybrid meetings at the TRBNO meetings and ASCE, T&DI, ICTD, you know, let's say the annual, say the conferences. We had again several meetings in the past years, and in a similar way, we accommodated, you know, let's say the online participation, and we will continue to have those, you know, let's say as we continue our work on this committee. And as you know, many of you who have been attending our, say, the quarterly meetings, we always have a, you know, let's say the invited presentation. Sometimes we have more than one, given that today, as part of TRBNO meeting, we only have 1 hour. So we do have a, you know, let's say the excellent presentation. And we love having colleagues, you know, from the, say, the state highway agencies. And today's presentation on uncrewed aircraft system regulation and policy, which is an extremely important topic. As you know, this is still a fast evolving, you know, let's say the field, and, you know, let's say the FAA guidelines on Part 107 and others have been, you know, let's say the constantly updated UAS related regulations. In recent days and weeks, perhaps you've been seeing a lot of news on the media, you know, let's say the drone sightings and all that. So it's a very important, you know, let's say the topic. Our speaker is Kenji Sugahara. And again, I'm so glad that we can still have him given all the, say, the weather-related problems and flight delays and cancellations. And he serves as the director for Oregon Department of Aviation. He's a, you know, let's say the frequently requested speaker on this, you know, let's say the topic. And say the Kenji, if you can please, you know, let's say the share the screen now and bring up your presentation, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much again for taking the time to be with us today.
Sounds great. Hold on 1 second. Here we go. First off, I want to say thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And I see a lot of Oregonians here from ODOT as well as Solomon from LCC. So big shout out to all of you. Good to see you. And hopefully I'll see you soon. But I first want to start out, tell you a little bit about myself and as well as my agency as well. So my background is I've been the director for about 1.5 years, and I'm also a board member of the National Association of State Aviation Officials. And then I'm also the chair of the Emerging Aeronautics Committee, so very similar to what you do. So I'm really excited to be here so we can establish this communication, because I think there's a lot of overlap in some projects that we can work on together too. As far as my background is concerned, I've worked with the FAA extensively on policy. For example, most recently I was on their FAA autonomy workshop, which dealt with advanced air mobility and autonomy and how to enable that in the national airspace system. Previous to that, I was on the Advanced Aviation Advisory Committee, which advised the FAA on UAS as well, and participated in a number of aviation rulemaking committees with the FAA, including remote ID and beyond visual line of sight. And most recently, I was an alternate for the counter UAS side as well. So this is a topic that is true and near and dear to my heart. But in terms of the Oregon Department of Aviation, we are a 15 staff person agency that oversees 28 state-owned airports, as well as helping oversee a number of other airports as well. We have a total of 96 public use airports in Oregon. And we also have a grant program where we provide millions of dollars as a federal match for FAA projects as well to a lot of these airports. So that's my agency in a nutshell. So one of the things that I'm also excited to talk about is Oregon is one of the primary members of the AAM Multi-State Collaborative. So what that is, we are 31 states and one tribal nation that have gotten together to really come up with best practices and key considerations for deployment of AAM. We did this because one of the things that has happened is there's been a gap in terms of how states can come together, because the last thing a lot of operators want are a patchwork of rules and regulations. Because if you think about it from a deployment perspective, from a lot of these private companies, if they're dealing with Washington and Oregon, and we have completely different regulatory structures in each, it becomes a problem. So what we've done is we're coming out with a series of consensus papers, and that's very specific, their consensus, because as soon as you say it's a more formal project, then we have to get sign off from our legislators, potentially our governor, and a lot of other stakeholders as well. So we're doing this as a consensus-based organization or group of states to come up with these papers. We're hoping to release these papers starting this month. Originally, we were hoping in December, but things were pushed back a little bit. But the topics include the scope and role of the states, because it's a partnership, right? You have your federal regulatory side, and then you also have a state side. FAA manages the airspace, and I always like to tell the folks at the FAA, hey, you do manage the airspace, but we manage the ground, and if you can't get off the ground, you can't be in the air. So that's a fun thing we talk about. It's also about leveraging existing GA infrastructure, so general aviation. There's a lot of existing airports, and how do we leverage that infrastructure? Because it's cheaper to deploy, and it's much easier from a community engagement perspective, because folks around those are used to advanced air mobility, or actually not advanced air mobility, but planes as well. And then there's minimum service levels. What sort of digital infrastructure and what sort of digital services can the state provide? And then policy harmonization. How do we ensure that while each state is different, how do we create some common touch points or some considerations when we develop policies to make sure they're somewhat uniform? And then we've been engaging at the federal level with the multi-state collaboratives. For example, the FAA Autonomy Workshop that happened about a month ago, there was discussions about between OEMs and the federal government, the FAA, hey, how do we work together? How do we provide information? And then the multi-state collaborative said, hey, with the states, we can help out there, because the FAA doesn't have pervasive surveillance everywhere. And there's some low altitude areas where we can come in as states and say, hey, we can provide that information. And a light bulb went off at NextGen at the FAA, and they're like, oh yeah, you're absolutely right. So they're going to be looking at that as a research project. We've also been working with the Advanced Air Mobility Interagency Work Group, which includes a number of federal agencies. I don't know at this point whether their findings will be released publicly, officially, but because of the change in administration. But there have been some listening sessions where they had talked about some of their findings as well. So that's in progress. And then AAAE as well. So the American Association of Airport Executives, we've been working with them, and the AM Multi-State Collaborative in a lot of ways works with NASAO as well, which I mentioned earlier, with the National Association of State Aviation Officials. So that's a multi-state collaborative. Watch out for these papers coming out over the next few months or so. Hopefully it'll provide good guidance. So I also want to mention on December 27th, there was FAA provided an update through their engineering brief 105A, and it was vertiport design supplemental guidance. So what was interesting in this one, it's an addition to heliport design, so for the ASCE for that. So it's not a completely new sort of engineering brief, but just an add-on. And it made some changes to definitions. So vertiports, they said were a type of heliport. So that makes it easy for those who are familiar with heliports. And then it updated some marking requirements, updating landing geometry, added some new sections on VTOL parking, and then it also gave some guidance in terms of downwash and outwash caution areas. So that was very, very new. And if the picture on the right just is the cover page to that, and if people are curious, I'm more than happy to provide a link to that as well. And then going back into a little bit of the history side, most of you should know this. I hope you do, especially if you're coming from DOTs or you fly drones. Enforcement began March 16th of 2024 last year. That was delayed a number of months because there were some implementation issues. Manufacturers were originally required to comply with creating or manufacturing drones that are remote compliant in December 16th of 2022. There's two types of remote ID. So that's standard remote ID, which is built into the aircraft, and then modules which you attach to the aircraft. You should be remote ID compliant if you're flying right now. If you're not, please make sure that you are, because it is a requirement. And of course, there's HTM compliance with 3586-2022. And now's a good time to talk about New Jersey. Yes, was there a question there real quick?
No, just a knowing chuckle about New Jersey.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So notice how all the hubbub about New Jersey and UFOs has sort of died off. You haven't seen it in the news. Mostly it's because I think people are starting to realize, hey, these things that you see in the sky have been up there. So whether I tell you, watching the media, I look at some of these pictures and I'm like, oh, that's a plane. Oh, that's a helicopter. Oh, those are stars. I think somebody pointed out, a legislator said, hey, that's a drone. No, it's not. It's Orion's belt. Thank you. But no. But there has been some fallout. So, for example, if you look at New Jersey, the number of no-fly zones that have been implemented, temporary, hopefully, no-fly zones, TFRs, temporary flight restrictions, it's sort of gone off the chart. And what's really fascinating, it's almost a backdoor way of implementing what is called Section 2209. So what Section 2209 is, it was part of the FAA Extension Safety and Security Act of 2016. And what Section 2209 was really created to do was create a framework for safe integration of drones with critical infrastructure. And I'll read the original text. Section 2209, DOT shall establish procedures for applicants to petition the FAA to prohibit or restrict the operation of drones in close proximity to a fixed site facility. So that's a affirmative designation. And a fixed site facility was considered to be critical infrastructure such as energy production, transmission, and distribution facilities and equipment, oil refineries and chemical facilities, amusement parks, and other locations that warrant such restrictions. Now, they were supposed to get it done by 2017. Well, it's the FAA, right? Sorry if there's anybody in the FAA in the audience, but it's 2024, still hasn't happened. Originally with Section 2209, the flight restrictions were supposed to be just directly over the facilities. But as you can see from the temporary flight restrictions that have been put around New Jersey, they're about a mile or so wide, which does create some problems, especially if you fly for work or if you're a state agency that needs to do work around these no-fly zones. So that's an ongoing issue. We'll be reaching out to the FAA and say, hey, what's going to be happening with those? Because if it's going to be happening and it's going to be rolled out nationwide, it needs to be transparent. It needs to go through Section 2209. So that's what's going on with that as well. Next thing that's coming up is beyond visual line of sight. And that's going to be most interesting to you folks, I think, as the Society of Civil Engineers, especially on your surveying side, right? Because if you think about long line infrastructure inspection, a lot of these operations happen beyond the line of sight of the operator, right? Most of your projects are going to be fairly long, especially if you're talking about roadways and highways and freeways as well. And that also applies to, say, for example, long line infrastructure of railways, as well as power transmission lines as well. And there was a Beyond Visual Line of Sight Aviation Rulemaking Committee in 2022. There's supposed to be a NPRM coming out this January. So that's sort of the FAA took our findings from the Aviation Rulemaking Committee and are working toward making it into a rule. We'll see how that fares with the transition and administration. But last time we talked to the FAA, they were fairly clear that they wanted to get it done this month. And what's fortunate is there's a lot of industry backing as well. So to enable these operations, you need these rules. and industry wants it. A lot of state governments want it. We all want it. So I think there's a strong possibility that it will be happening. The way that we're looking at the potential rule coming out, it's going to be standards driven, very much so through ASTM, SDO, Standards Development Organization. There's a question whether it's going to require universal cost security for all. And for those who don't know, what that means is right now, GA pilots do not have to transmit over ADS-B, which is a type of beaconing equipment on traditional aviation, unless they're in certain airspace, what's called within the Mode C veil. But that creates a problem outside of that, because if drones can't see the aircraft, then that sort of is an issue. So hopefully there's going to be a drive toward making sure that everybody that is in the airspace is electronically conspicuous so people can see each other, or drones can see the traditional aircraft that are flying. There'll be likely operational permits for smaller operations, and then operational certificates for bigger operations. When you talk about bigger operations, you're talking about the drone delivery, for example, drone up, zip line, wing, those ones that'll be doing high tempo operations, complicated, and the FAA is going to work with them very closely. This operational certificates or permits will likely come in the form of how your waivers and such work right now. So that's coming along in early or late this month, hopefully, keeping fingers crossed. And then another one to be concerned about is operations over people, of course. A lot of operations that you conduct, especially if they do beyond visual line of sight, you do operations over people as well. That's going to be consideration, flying over vehicles, flying over people. Before Part 108, you received waivers for 10739 and 107145 over people and vehicles. Originally what happened was the categories weren't working. So there's categories in terms of the amount of kinetic energy that was transferred by a drone if it impacted a person, and that never worked out. So FAA worked through those issues with the Drone Service Providers Alliance and helped create sort of a more streamlined structure. So when you apply for a waiver, as long as you have the correct concept of operations and your safety mitigations, they streamline the process. So if your drone is under 0.88 pounds, if you have remote ID, lights that can be seen for 3 statute miles, and prop guards, you'll be able to fly under a waiver, and that's streamlined. And then between 0.88 pounds, but under 3.5 pounds, if you fly with remote ID, lights, prop guards, and or a flight termination system. And what that means is if there's an issue that you can terminate flight that blocks the propellers, then that should be okay. And there's a requirement for a parachute, which is an ASTM certified compliant F3322-18 parachute recovery system. So, and that's how it's happening right now before Part 108 comes out. This one, the Drone Service Providers Alliance has made public the instruction set to apply for operations over people waiver, and they broke it down very easily. I'll leave that up on screen for a few moments. So if you want to take a screenshot, no, it doesn't take you to scam. It's all provided for free. And yeah, it goes step by step on how to do it. So hopefully it'll be useful for you to apply for waivers to get that. So, all right, I will move on. Like I mentioned, the beyond visual line of sight, waivers before 108. The key terms is not only the equipage requirements that I mentioned, but normally you'll likely must use a VO. This is actually having to do with extended visual line of sight. So I was able to get a waiver for extended visual line of sight, which means I can fly to the point where the drone is outside my vision. So you think about like a Mavic Mini, which is around pretty tiny, or a Mavic 3 or Skydio. They got out of sight really quickly. But there is an ability, if you have airspace awareness around the drone, that you can fly to a point where the drone is out of sight, but you can see what's around it because you know where it is. If you use a VO with 2 statute miles of visibility around the drone, and you have high visibility strips and or high vis markings, you'll be able to fly out to that distance. So that's a fairly interesting waiver. And if you want information on how we structured our VE loss waiver, you can also email me. So that's very useful, especially if you're surveying and you're doing some grid mapping and you have good airspace awareness. So that's an option. So this is directly for the Oregon side of things, but this is a new way to sort of raise funds and also force compliance with 107 to private commercial operators. A lot of you might have heard complaints from your commercial operators or other operators that there's a lot of folks out there who aren't getting their 107 or flying drones commercially without the certificate, which is a problem. So I did some thinking, having been in this sphere, and I did a lot of work before I was director. I flew drones since 2013. I was in the film and television industry too, which was fun. My claim to fame is I was in a photo with Drake and also got to meet Nick Cage as well. So that was a lot of fun. But one of the requirements that'll come out of this bill, which hopefully will pass this legislative session, is a requirement for all commercial operations that take off and land in Oregon to have insurance. So, and specifically aviation liability insurance, because if you take a look at your normal commercial liability insurance, it doesn't cover aviation. So it has to be very specific. There might be you might be lucky and have aviation liability insurance included that covers drones in your commercial liability insurance, but more often not, it does not. This requirement does not apply to public safety or education because mostly you are covered by your educational or government insurance, or you might be self-insured. So what it does is requires it, we'll put a 5% surcharge on premiums. And what that does is it goes to pay for what we're looking at deploying, which is remember how I talked about advanced air mobility and minimum sort of service levels and data? We're going to be deploying sensors, whether they be remote ID sensors, RF sensors, ADS-B sensors to detect traditional aircraft, to even weather. So what that allows is safer in Oregon. And Chris and Audrey, I already talked to your director and they thought it was a great idea. But what it'll enable, it's a safety mitigation for beyond visual line of sight operations. So if you're doing long line infrastructure inspection, when you apply for that waiver or under Part 108, you can point to the usage of our data as a safety mitigation to get that. And then it'll also help enable drones as a first responder. So if you're not familiar with that, a lot of law enforcement and public safety organizations use drones, and they're starting up programs, for example, where you have a drone in a box on top of the station. You get a call in, the drone pops up, actually goes directly out to the scene of the 911 call or wherever there's an issue, and they can check it out and get some good situational awareness. So we want to use those funds to be able to fund that infrastructure. Right now, we use fuel taxes, but fuel taxes on aviation are limited in use. You can't use them outside the airport environment. So that becomes an issue. So the next question is, how is it enforced, right? It's like, are you going to fine people? Are you going to throw people in jail? No. So it's a civil enforcement mechanism. People get fined, but the question becomes, yeah, then how do you find the people, right? Are you going to send out people into the field to check people's insurance certificates? No, not really. Our idea is to work with the big say for example, real estate. There's an agency that deals with real estate. There's an agency that oversees the construction contractors. And what we're doing is we're going to be talking to these folks and saying, hey, let your membership know this is a requirement. If you don't have it, you could potentially lose your license if you're not in compliance with their with the statute and regulations. So there are ways to get more people into compliance. Will we ever achieve 100% compliance? No. But the other component of this is if you hire somebody who doesn't have their drone insurance, then you can be fined as well. So that's another way to sort of help get people to the point to understand that they need insurance. And if you don't have your insurance, well, if you have insurance, if you don't have your Part 107, if something happens, you're not going to be covered. So that's sort of that backdoor way to encourage compliance with Part 107. So that's a neat little thing I just want to bring up with what we're doing in Oregon. And I've actually shared this out to other states as well. The nice thing about this is insurance is under the direct purview of the states. So it's not federally preempted. Whereas there is some preemption issues with registration of pilots and potential aircraft as well. That's why North Carolina has stepped away from that and actually just sent out a note saying, hey, we're not going to register people, make people take a test, etc. And I've also talked to folks in Washington State and said, hey, check out what happened with North Carolina. You might want to pull back your program as well. And if folks didn't know, there is an FAA fact sheet that was put out with the role of the states and the limitations and what is federally preempted. That was updated in 2023, I think. Yeah, 2023. And if folks are interested, I can always pass that around as well. So here's the fun one. DJI, the Great American Freakout, because there's been a lot of chatter about Chinese-made drones, about security issues and potential data leakage to foreign competitors and such. Is it legitimate? Well, not really. There's a lot of could happen. There's a lot of speculation that that data could be sucked out. To be honest, the ban was really pushed by 2 U.S. companies. Like I mentioned, it could. DJI has gone through select security audits, FTI, ISO 27001 certification. So there's just a list of sort of the audits that they have passed. But there has been some recent news. So this is going to be most interesting to the folks that might not know. The National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2025, that just passed, and it was signed into law by President Biden on actually on December 23rd, I think it was. The National Defense Authorization Act, there was original a concern that there would be a ban on DJI drones and Chinese-made drones. It does not. It mandates a security evaluation of Chinese-made drones. It fails to designate a specific agency to conduct the study. It listed out some agencies that would qualify. What's most concerning about that, there's a dead man switch. If there isn't a assessment done within 1 year of passage, DJI could face an automatic FCC ban. So there's a lot of folks out there, organizations that are pushing the federal agencies to actually act upon that. And then this Department of Commerce, Bureau of Industry and Security, they just dropped a notice of proposed rulemaking in the last week or so, week or 2 weeks. What it is, it's a notice of proposed rulemaking. They're seeking public comment on impact of potential restrictions on use of Chinese drones. Comments are due March 4th, 2025. Their concerns mainly address Chinese and Russian compromising U.S. infrastructure and security. There's a link to it. If you want to take a screenshot, feel free to. And I'll be distributing this PowerPoint presentation after the presentation today as well. And then, so what can be really done? The path forward, to be honest, U.S. manufacturing, I'm a big fan of it. There are some really, really good companies. My favorite one is FreeFly, which is out of Washington State. I'm a little biased because we use them in our film and television side as well. But they're a great company. They do really well. The issue that we have right now in the United States is the manufacturers cannot scale, right? So if you think about the Chinese made drones, they produce thousands to tens of thousands of drones a day. They are a lot of them are global organizations and they have a global distribution network. Unfortunately, U.S. manufacturers cannot scale to the point where they can actually fulfill the entire need of the United States, whether it be public safety related, whether it be commercial operations, or even recreational drones out there. No U.S. companies can fill that role. There's a price differential as well. It's economies of scale. So even if there's a ban, there's not enough manufacturing capacity. And the manufacturers that are out there, there are none that address the recreational market. And that becomes an issue because a lot of the recreational drones are used for STEM education and also to get people interested in aviation as well. So the potential solution is subjecting all drones to industry standards, security standards, and I'm hoping that happens with the NDAA language and statutory language. And we all know foreign-made drones should not be flown around national security sensitive installations. But if folks are flying at the Oregon coast, checking out birds, who cares, right? It really doesn't matter. So there should be a mechanism to prevent non-U.S. manufactured drones from flying around critical infrastructure and around military installations. Some of it, a lot of our infrastructure that we have at the state, is it security sensitive? No, not really. If you think about it, you can get most of the information off of Google Maps or even some of the GIS information that we have out there as well. And then there are currently tariffs that are employed on Chinese-made drones. Why don't we just use that for supporting domestic manufacturers like FreeFly and Skydio and others as well? So there's a lot of potential avenues to support domestic manufacturing, but until that point where they can fly on their propellers, so to speak, I think there's better ways to address the national security issue. With that, that is my presentation. I'd like to leave some time for questions because this ends in 18 minutes. So at this point, I'm open, happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much, Kenji. This is very, very timely and outstanding presentation. So I learned some things new here, and fantastic update on this. And now the floor is open for questions. So you can unmute yourself and ask your questions, or you can type on the chat box, and I'm monitoring it. And we do have time for discussion. And our executive director gave me the good news that we can actually have some extra time in this room. And as needed, our meeting can take a few extra minutes, after this scheduled time. So any questions, comments?
I think Kenji did a great job of covering things. The issues with access to drones made in certain countries is something I've been following very closely myself, and have talked a little bit about with this committee. So Kenji was very thorough there. And we'll see what happens over this next year with the dead man switch. I hadn't heard it described that way, but the 12-month maximum for the security review is it's a good way of putting it. And hopefully, we'll still be able to fly our existing fleets that are important to research and state DOTs and public security, police departments and all that.
Yeah, definitely on that note, it would be an FCC ban, and likely what's going to happen is the drones are flying right now would be fine. It just wouldn't be. It would be that the new FCC licenses wouldn't be issued for new models that come out.
And that, I remember that being part of the Countering CCP Drones Act, but I thought the language was different in what did get passed, and that it would be retroactive if the security review is not passed by DJI, so to speak.
I'll double check on that, but I'm fairly certain that it wasn't retroactive. I think that would cause more chaos than anything else if you think about it as well. The millions out there. That's logistically that's not going to happen. It might be easy for agencies that have to comply with federal law, but if you think about the number of commercial operations as well as recreational drones.
Yeah, that's why that's why it caught my eye that it might be retroactive. I was like, oh, that's an interesting potential change. So yeah, I'd be curious to see to hear your interpretation of that. Because again, I'm considering buying 2 new, sub $5,000 DJI drones for my research this year to do transportation related research, and I'm sitting there wondering, should I do it? And then also, I mean, I did go the Anzu Raptor route for one of my projects, and I'm flying that. But the NDA 2025 language seems to cover those sorts of systems that are essentially DJI clones, but are not made in China and use US software, which again was different than I had originally anticipated.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Partnerships were included. So, for example, yeah, you're right. The Raptor would be banned, even though they leverage the Aloft software, which is yeah.
So thank you. Very good discussion, and again, very critical topic. And I know, like I was just talking with our local state highway agency, and one of the colleagues told me that all they have is every single UAS unit is based on, let's say the DJI. So, and I'm glad that there are some positive, let's say the steps in that direction. So I see 2 hands up, and let's go with Tony. And if you can unmute yourself, Tony, and ask your question, please go ahead. Thank you. Tony, can you hear us? And let me just see. I mean, I see that you are unmuted, but we're unable to hear you. Maybe you want to check your audio system and microphone, or you can type your question in the chat box and I'll be happy to read it. So meanwhile, why don't we get the question from Chris Harris of Oregon DOT. I see his hands up. Chris, go ahead, please.
Thanks. Hey, Kenji. Thanks for all the good work as usual, and look forward to more conversation later today.
Yep.
But so I had a question. I think a lot of folks on this call will be really interested in the flight over people and vehicles and ways to accomplish that. And so one of the questions I had, especially around mapping, have you seen solutions that work with having a parachute, but also the RTK antenna on top? Is there enough room to get all of that on top of one of these? Maybe like a Mavic 3 or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I know the Mavic 3 Enterprise and how it plugs into the top. It's got to have a PRS. So my advice on that would just be use GCPs. It's a pain in the rear, but you're also going to get more accurate data out of it using GCPs, right?
I mean, we're always going to have GCPs, whether we have RTK on there or not. Just adjust how many we have. But yeah, just wondering, there's, especially when, I know when remote ID came out, just real estate on top of these systems is pretty limited. So the more you clamp on there, the more issue it is to just fit it. So
yeah, and you're absolutely right too. The more you put on it, the right on top of the unit is where the GPS is too. So
great. All right, thank you.
Yep.
So thank you for your question and participation. Tony, are you able to, you are muted now. You want to unmute yourself? Try again. Are you ready?
Can you hear anything now?
We can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Great, great. Yeah, my name is Tony Malinowski. I'm with the Michigan Department of Transportation, and we use drones a lot in the surveying application. And you talked earlier about like the BVLOS waivers that might be coming out. Can you expand on that or go over that again? I'd really like to expand and fly longer missions without turning around and splitting projects into multiple pieces. So if we could just go over that one more time, that'd be great.
So there's two components, right? So there's the Part 108 and the NPRM that's hopefully going to be released this January. But the problem is there's the NPRM and then there's a comment period. So it's going to be probably about a year until a final rule comes out. So in the interim, you can apply for a waiver, right? And then
all right.
with the waiver, and I think that might be on the DSPA website too. But there's a way to get an extended visual line of sight waiver. So, like I mentioned before, a lot of the drones that we have, they tend to be a little bit smaller, unless you're talking like an M300 class or et cetera.
Yeah, we use the bigger ones. So M600s,
Yeah.
M300s.
Oh, you still have an M600? Oh my goodness.
We do, yeah, we do.
Oh, okay. So you can see that for quite a long distance. So you can stay within visual line of sight for a while. But to get the extended visual line of sight waiver, which I'd actually recommend using a smaller unit to do, because with the M600, even if it's within visual line of sight, that's a heavy unit. So if it goes down, and you don't know exactly what's under it, then there's an issue.
Yeah.
But with the EV loss side, so it's and I have it in my waiver. You have to have a certain amount of visualization in front of you, so you can see the airspace, because you can usually see aircraft intruding into the airspace where the drone is. So if you can see it, the aircraft, you can immediately mitigate by dropping down in altitude, right? So with the waiver, you can fly out to 2 miles or so, which is pretty far if you think about it, as long as you can detect the traditional aircraft that might be in the area. So you have to have a good visibility around it. So that's the requirements of the waiver, and I can provide you the con ops. Let me check if it's actually on the DSPA's website.
Yeah. So would you suggest maybe applying for a waiver with the M300s, 350s opposed to the 600? Like it might be easier to get a waiver approved with those.
M300 is a pretty big unit itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we use M300s, M350s a lot, and then we also have the 600 that we still use occasionally.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you can do it. Will you have control of the ground underneath the drone when it's out there?
Yeah, it's mainly like highway right of way stuff like that.
Oh, okay. And no vehicles traveling, mostly under construction?
Under construction, or we'd be traveling like not over the roadway. The flight paths would be like off to the sides of the roadway.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, you should be able to get that. That's
Okay.
fine. Just be aware that if because ops over people is over. Over is over, right?
Right.
And that means directly over people, their shoulders and head, etc. But if it crashes and hurts somebody, you'll get in trouble. There's a element of recklessness there that they might hit you with. So just be aware you do have risks, right? But the EV loss waiver, you should be able to get that fine.
Okay. Yeah, we on our 600 we kind of took extra steps. We actually have like a parachute and all that kind of stuff on the 600. But everybody likes flying the 300s and 350s a lot better. So
I
that's
would.
600. Yeah. So 600.
Does your gimbal still work?
Oh, we have like a lot of we have a lot of different stuff on it. So it was kind of one that we bought to kind of start and get into it. But now since technology has advanced so much, it's a lot easier using the 300 and 350s. So.
So thank you, Tony. Thank you, Kenji, very kindly answering his question. So I see another hands up, Solomon, and then we can take his question, and then we'll have a few more slides, and then we'll get our updates from our executive director. So Solomon, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'll be real quick. Thank you so much. Kenji, really appreciate your presentation as usual. Very great to hear the latest and greatest on everything. I had a quick question though, because we're working on trying to get some larger aircraft, and I know there might be some users here that might benefit from hearing this too. Do you hear any updates about any medical requirements that might be part of the Part 108, or are they removing those? Or because I'm kind of curious on heavier aircraft as well. That's sort of a limitation when you get above the 55-pound limit. They tend to want to have N numbers and medicals. So I'm just kind of curious if you heard anything about that.
I haven't heard anything about that. For my over 55-pound, the exemption, I think mine was a class 2 medical. It was a class 2 or class 3. So that was a requirement. It wouldn't surprise me, but I haven't heard anything.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Thank you so much again. So, and I'd like to give the opportunity, Blaine, if you can help me bring the rest of the slides up. So now we can continue to get an update from, say, the Mohammed Amir. He's serving as the Executive Director for Transportation and Development Institute. And again, if you want to engage in more discussions, learn more about UAS technologies, come and attend ASCE conferences. As you can see, we've been having a lot of meetings. Our next conference is scheduled for June 2025 in Glendale, Arizona. And then that's our ASCE T&DI International Conference on Transportation and Development. I've known Amir for many, many years, since actually when he was a candidate for this position, and he's been doing an outstanding job as the leading position for Transportation and Development Institute. Amir, please go ahead.
Thank you, Halil, and thank you, all of you, for joining us here in person and also remotely. Special thanks to Kenji. Actually, if you are on, I had a question for you, which was related to ASCE as an organization. We are the American Society of Civil Engineers. We have 165,000 members around the world, 330 student chapters nationwide, 80 plus internationally. We also represent the government engineers and private practice engineers, faculty members, academics, also students, and also have a broad outreach to general public through a wide variety of channels, along with continuing education and publications as our key business line. So my question to you with that background is, what, in your opinion, can ASCE do to disseminate and aggregate a lot of the information that you are talking about? Because as you also brought up, that a lot of information is coming out very fast. And I see the role for ASCE to be that bridge in collecting and aggregating and presenting that information. So just wanted to hear from you how you see it.
So ASCE is a very, very important channel. I think one of the things that we have to realize is that our messaging is going to differ based on the audience that we're looking at, right? So for example, with all the information that was out there about the New Jersey drones and such, I created a frequently asked questions that I distributed for free from the department. And the one that we sent out to the public, it was just created for a 3rd to 5th grade reading level, right? So we need to do that. So if you're engaging with the public, if we can get information out there through credible organizations like ASCE, because the aviation officials only have a certain amount of reach, right? So the more organizations that we can get out to send out information that's credible and correct, is the better. right? So I think what it comes down to is communication and making sure that that leadership meets, or actually we can share information with you. So as for example, ASCE has some information that they want to send out to the state aviation officials. Please do. So it's that connection piece, making sure it gets out there, making sure it's tailored to the correct people. Because I'm also imagining that the ASCEs tends to be a little bit more sophisticated group with that's tailored to engineers, geeks, so to speak. So I think just having those conversations, making sure we get information to each other to get distributed out to all our membership is going to be very helpful. And where we can leverage our relationships with other organizations, with DOT partners, with related entities, the more we can get out there, I think is better. And it's also good from a community engagement piece as well. So we also create that public facing document, and we get it out there that drones are normal. Drones are out there and they're not necessarily doing bad things. And I think that was one of the biggest issues with the New Jersey incident, right? Is that people suddenly saw something unfamiliar in the air and they immediately thought it was a nefarious purpose, whereas it could have been law enforcement or DOT or an engineer sending up a drone just to do their normal business. It was just new. So just making sure that we engage with the public correctly and getting ahead of a lot of these issues that might crop up that all of our agencies in our companies face.
And Kenji, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I felt like both at a government and industry level at first, there weren't enough people stepping up to say, hey, even if these are drones, it's perfectly legal to fly at night.
Yes.
Yes. Never mind the hysteria side, or stars or manned aircraft. And that eventually did happen, but it took a while to get to that point.
Yep. And in an interview that I had with a television studio, one of the things that I said was, if it's got its lights on, it wants to be seen.
That's a good quote.
The reason why, from ASCE staff standpoint, this is a fascinating area, is because we are constantly looking for ways to bring all of our communities together around a topic. And this is one where we have groups that are working on surveying, groups that are working on bridge inspections, infrastructure inspection, construction, pavement inspection, and all that. So all of those are different pockets within ASCE. And I see UAS committee within T&DI to be that hub of disseminating, even internally within our constituents, and then outside to the larger population. So a great presentation, really appreciate it. I would encourage, of course, the committee to serve the role of that hub. And I mean, this is a great thing. In terms of my own remarks, I'll just keep it very brief. I know you're budgeted, all of you, your time for 3 o'clock, but there are two real avenues where committees can produce products through this. And ASCE is really a platform. We've got staff support, we've got resources that we can provide, both in product development and also in communication and outreach. One is on the publications side, and the other one is on events side. Events is dominated by webinars. What we just had this presentation, I mean, we are a great bunch of people online in here. We could actually do exactly the same thing as a formal ASCE webinar that's promoted to our entire membership. It's, there's a registration, we don't charge anything, we don't give any PDHs. I mentioned that because we have 2 types. One where we do give continuing education credits, but that has to have a registration fee associated with it. And then the second one are these free webinars, and we want to keep those going also for broader outreach. So, it's a 6-week to 2-month lead time to get on the calendar. That gives us enough time to promote it. We have 1 speaker, we have Q&A, and we set it all up. We set up the registration site, all of that. So that is something that the committee, this topic, and something on a regular basis would be nice. And then on the publication side, there is always an opportunity to have a white paper, what we call as a committee report, on a webinar or on a series of webinars. There's after 2 or 3, there is something that is written and documented, and actually that goes through the ASCE publications process. So it becomes a published ASCE document with ASCE's logo, committee's name as the author, and then it basically gets into our ASCE library as a published document. Some committees have started using AI on their webinars to collect notes and then restructure reorganize the content and basically have a webinar report which comes out as a committee. That's a 10-page document, 20-page document that can be on a certain topic. That's committee report is one. Ebooks we have talked about, that's another area, another product to have a book on this. Handbook, guidelines, standards, all of those things. Our goal is to be that one place. Standardization is a very high end of the spectrum, but at least have some sort of a guidance, case studies, synthesis, state of the art, lessons learned, all of the jargon in society, association business. We are there for it. The committee steps up, wants to get into that. I'm sure there are many topics within this area that you can do, but I wanted to thank you all for your time, for your contribution. We are a society of volunteers and we really appreciate you participating in our committees.
Thank you so much, Amir. I mean, this room, was rented and all these resources, information made available by ASCE. We greatly appreciate your leadership and support. So thank you, Kenji. And as you can see, Kenji, this is just a start of a long relationship with you and many other colleagues. We will not shy, to volunteer you for our future activities. We greatly appreciate it. By the way, if any of you in the room want to volunteer a presentation, in our virtual room and physical room here, please, you can just type your name or, a topic, and we will follow up with you if you have a topic that you want to share with our committee members and ASCE, the community and all that. We are very open and inclusive, and we had many actually volunteers, over the years through meetings like this. So please let us know, and we greatly appreciate it. And we want to continue to strengthen our ties and, add additional, the connections with many other agencies like Kenji is a member of or in a leading role in a whole bunch of them. So we want to continue those and, to make the most out of through this collaborative volunteering, the activity. So thank you, Kenji, and we greatly appreciate it. Extremely timely topic. And so, as I mentioned, we will actually have 2 dedicated UAS-related sessions plus a bunch of other poster presentations in our upcoming flagship conference in June 2025 in Glendale, Arizona. And Blaine, if you can please advance the slides, we have a few more information that we want to share with you. So, and again, committee membership, please visit our website. You can apply actually to be a member. If you are a full, the ASCE member, we do have available spots. So you can actually be a full voting member, or if you're not a, the due paying ASCE member, we actually do have associate memberships, available. So we highly encourage you to get involved with our committee and, involve, participate, and, become a member of it, either a full voting member or an associate member. So we also have leadership positions available. This committee will be in an excellent shape, and, they actually, as of the end of this, the fiscal year, which is September 30th, as a chair, I will become the past chair, and our vice chair, Blaine Ruck, will be stepping into the chair role. And he's been doing a fantastic job over the years, and I greatly appreciate all the committee, the officers' outstanding work here. And then, so we'll have some available positions, the secretary will step into the vice chair role, and then there will be additional outreach specialists, the positions available. So if any of you want to volunteer your time and, the service to the ASCE and other broader community, we highly encourage you to get in touch with us and consider being as part of the committee leadership team, to serve on those, the roles. And we will actually send out emails and notifications regarding those, the transitions. So, and Blaine, do you want to add anything regarding what we have on this slide, please?
Not in particular. Yeah, I think just understanding the different levels of membership. Full membership requires you to be an ASCE member, so that is definitely a prerequisite. But of course, we welcome folks that are non-ASCE members to participate as associate members, and that still allows you to enjoy all the benefits of webinars like these as well as contribute content. Like if you're an associate member and you're interested in sharing or presenting ideas in this forum, you're certainly able to do so. So yeah.
Thank you again. And if any of you have any questions, comments, I'm monitoring the chat box, the city, please let us know. So what do we have on the next slides, Blaine? Yeah. So, and in terms of, again, closing remarks here, we also do have, a LinkedIn, page, and you can, go there and become a member. You can like that and, add to your, connections. And under, again, if you Google ASCE UAS committee, we are the only UAS committee under the entire, actually, ASCE, organization. As you know, there are different institutes, for example, Structures Institute, Construction Institute, and this committee is under Transportation and Development Institute. But as far as I know, this is the only, the UAS drones committee under that, the large umbrella. As our executive director mentioned, there are more than 165,000 ASCE members worldwide. And we highly encourage you again to visit our committee page. If you just Google that, or just look into that barcode there, so that there will be additional mechanism for you to learn more about the committee and get involved with it. So Blaine, do you have anything to add here?
No, I don't think so. We send out email communications on a regular basis in advance of these type of events. So please stay tuned for those. And yeah, if you have any questions or otherwise would like to make any comments, either use this QR code right here to take our meeting survey, or just reach out to us via email, and we'd be happy to answer any specific questions you have.
Yeah, so go ahead, please.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Okay, no, go ahead.
So if it's appropriate, one thing I'd like to share with this group, because I think it's the right one, is at the Michigan Tech Research Institute in Ann Arbor, Michigan, we are recruiting for a research engineer, civil engineer position. The first time we've actually tried to hire a civil engineer into our research group.
Okay.
You do have to be a U.S. citizen, and it's available on the Michigan Tech job sites. It's position number 24346. And if you have any questions, you can probably find me on LinkedIn and all that. But
okay,
love to have a civil engineer come join us.
Okay, and speaking here is Dr. Colin Brooks. He's an outstanding, the collaborator colleague. We've been working on actively many federally and states, the DOT-funded studies on UAS technologies. So thank you, Colin, for your participation today. So does anyone have any questions or comments, anything that you want to share with our committee members? You can raise your hands, unmute yourself, or utilize the chat box. So any last minute comments from anyone? So I'm not seeing anything or hearing anything. If I'm missing, Blaine, just let me know. And we greatly appreciate again for your participation today. And our council chair, do you have anything to add? Okay, so I think we had another excellent meeting and presentation. We greatly appreciate your participation today for contributing to the questions and comments and discussion. We greatly appreciate it. Again, stay in tune with us. If you have not provided your contact information on the chat box, please do so before you sign off. And again, we will be in touch with you, and you will be receiving email announcements for our upcoming meetings. We'll have a virtual only quarterly meeting sometime in March, and then in June you're going to have another hybrid meeting, in-person attendance in Glendale, Arizona, ASCE conference. And then virtual participation will be provided for the committee meeting only. But if you're there, you will greatly enjoy, the sessions fully focusing on UAS transportation infrastructure systems. Thank you, everyone, for your participation today, and enjoy the rest of your week, your day. We greatly appreciate it, and Happy New Year to everyone. So thank you so much. This concludes our meeting today. Thank you.